AI is changing the way we build applications, and today I'm going to show you how to integrate AI into a Django project using Ollama. We will start off with creating a simple to-do application. We will then use AI to transform it into a smart to-do application. By the end of this video, you will know how to develop an AI-powered smart application using Django, Python, and an LLM running locally through Ollama. You will then be able to go off and develop your own smart applications. We'll start off with a simple to-do application in Django. Then we'll make it a smart application by integrating AI to process tasks and help you complete them by producing a step-by-step plan for how you would complete the task. With introductions now out of the way, let's get started. The first thing that you need to do is make sure you have Ollama installed. If you don't have it installed, come to ollama.com. You'll be presented with this page, which has a download link below. You click that, it will take you to the download page, and on the download page you select which operating system you're on and you follow the steps for downloading it. So with Windows, we will click the download for Windows button. Once it finishes downloading, you'll have an executable here, which you then double click to start the installation, and you follow through the steps for installing it. Once it's finished installing, open up a new terminal and you can type in Ollama --version. And if you get a response like this, you know you have Ollama installed correctly. If you didn't have this come up, you may need to close your terminal and reopen it again. If you're still having issues, you may need to turn your computer off and turn it back on. And if you're still having further issues, you probably need to reinstall Ollama again. So for this tutorial, we're going to be using the Llama 3.2 with 1 billion parameters model. So to do that, you do Ollama pull, and then the model, which is Llama 3.2 with 1 billion parameters. Enter that. It's going to start pulling the information about that model, and it will start downloading it, although I already have it installed, so I did it instantly. This is 1.3 gigabytes in size, so it may take you a while. So with Ollama all set up, we're now going to start off with our Django application, which will not have AI integrated in with it. So the first thing we need to do is create a Python virtual environment. So we do that with Python -m venv, and then we will name the virtual environment venv. This will make sure the packages we install are only for this application we're currently working on, so they don't interfere with any other projects you may have installed and working on. Once that is complete, there are only 2 packages we need to install, but firstly we need to enter into our virtual environment, and we do that with venv scripts activate, and you know that will work once you have this here in your terminal. So the 2 packages that we need to install with pip install are Django and Ollama. If you don't know, Django is a web framework which uses Python. It allows you to develop full stack web applications where you have your backend which processes and produces information, interacts with databases and other API services, and then allows you to display them on front-end pages as a website. So the main focus of this tutorial is about the backend and using AI with Ollama. So for the front end, we aren't going to be using any front-end frameworks. We're going to be using the Django templating, but we will use Bootstrap so it doesn't look simple and basic, the UI components. So we now have Django and Ollama installed. What we need to do next is create the Django project. So to do that, we do Django -admin start project, and we will call this AI_to-do_project. So that has created our Django project right here, and we can see we've got our manage.py and then all the settings and other scripts for the project. So what we will do next is we are going to enter into this project through cd AI to do project. Then using manage.py, we're going to create an app which will contain our actual to-do application logic. So with that, we do Python manage.py start app, and we'll name it to do. And with that, we can see right here we now have our to do application. So first we're going to set up some settings which we need to change within our project, because we're going to have code within our to do application and templating for the website which we need access to. So the changes that we do need to make: first, in installed apps, we created an app called to do, so we need to include that into here by adding to this installed apps list to do. So that lets Django know that we have this app which exists within our project. Next thing we need to do is go to this templates variable, and we need to go to this does key and add a value into here which is templates. This is a directory we're going to have in our to do app where we have our HTML files. So that lets Django know when searching for a template, go to the templates directory within our app directory. So with that said, let's get started with actually creating our to-do application. So we can minimize the AI to-do project for now, and we go to here. The first thing we'll do is go to our models.py. We're going to be creating a model for our to-do item, and this is going to allow us to save to-do items into the database. So for this, we're going to do class to-do item, and this is going to be based on models.model. So this will be a Django model that gets saved to the database. So for this, we're going to first add the ID field. It is good practice with database objects and classes and tables that you don't use just normal incremental ID fields. Usually it's a good idea to use a UUID so people can't guess what things there are in a database. So what we'll do is models.UUID field. We'll do primary key equals true, and then what we actually need to do is import UUID, and what we need to do is set the default to UUID.UID4. So that will be the primary key within this table. Next, our to-do items will have a title. This will be a models.character field, and we're going to set the maximum length of the title to be 255 characters. Next, we'll add the description. This will be a models.text field, which will allow it to be of any size. And what we may as well do now is add the field which we'll be using for the AI, which will be steps. This will be a models.json field, as what this will have is going to be a list of strings within it, or in other words JSON. So the AI will produce a list of strings which are the steps to take to complete this task. So we do this, and the default is going to be a list. So if this is empty, it will contain an empty list inside of it. And finally we'll have completed, which is equal to models.boolean field, and the default is false. So once we've completed a task, we will set it to true. So that's all we're going to do for now for the models. Next, we need to create our views, which are the actual code which runs when we access the web page. So we'll go to our views.py, and we will start off with def index request. And this is going to be the main page of our website. So on this page, we're going to display all of our to-do items. So we'll do to-do items is equal to, but first, we need to import from our models file. Oops, that should be from.models. Because it's in the same directory, we can do .models for this file. We do import to-do item. Then what we do is to-do item.objects all, because we want to see all of our to-do items on this page. Then what we do is we're going to return a render. So this will first take our request, which is passed to this function when we go to the page. So that's passed into the render as well. We then need to specify template. We haven't done this yet, but the name of the template will be to-do/index.html, and then we need to provide a context to this. The context allows us to provide Python variables and code, which then get injected into the HTML. So the context within this, we're going to have a key called to-do items, and then this is going to contain our list of to-do items, which we retrieved here. So now that we have this done, we should look at creating the template page for this. So within our to-do directory, we'll go new folder, templates. Then inside of here, we're going to do to-do. This is good practice because within larger Django applications, you'll have multiple apps within it, and they're each going to have templating as well. But as you can see here, this is how you specify the template. So if you didn't have another directory of the application name, you're just going to have this, and that will get confusing. So it's good practice to do templates, then the name of your application, then inside of there have your templating files. So for that, we'll then do index.html. So within this, it's not going to be anything too crazy. We're going to do some basic templating, but we will use Bootstrap, so the styling isn't horrible default HTML stuff. So first thing we need to do is load static. This is for Django templating, which allows us to use the Python tagging and variables and stuff within it. So we'll start off with HTML. We will create our head, and we will set the title to to-do list. Now what we need to do is add Bootstrap into this. So what you can do, go to your web browser, type in Bootstrap CSS. We will go to the first link, which is getbootstrap.com, and because we want this to be as simple as possible, we will use the CDN for it, which is basically just a URL. So go to CDN via JS deliver, and we can copy both of these. So we've got the CSS, and then we have the JavaScript for it. So we've copied that, and we paste it into here, and we've now got our Bootstrap CSS and our Bootstrap scripts in it. Okay, next we need to actually create the body for our HTML page, and this is going to contain our to-do list items. So we'll create a div, and this is going to use the Bootstrap class's container. Then with inside of here, let's give this page a title with h1. We'll call it to-do list. And we'll also give this some Bootstrap classing, styling with text center, and we'll give it a margin bottom of, let's say 4. So within this, we want to give the ability to add items, and we're going to have a separate page for that. So initially, let's create an A tag, which will allow us to go to another link. We are going to leave this blank to begin with, as we will need to set up the URL routing and the view for it. So to begin with, this will be empty, but we'll give it class of button, and then give it button primary for the styling, and we'll also give this a margin bottom of 3. We're going to name this as add task. So that's the headers done and stuff. So now we will create our unordered list class, and we'll name this list group, and this is going to contain our to-do items. Now, so with Django and templating, you're able to pass variables into the template using the context. So we're going to use the context now to go through our to-do items, which in here we named to-do items. So to do that, curly brace percent and percent like this. Then what we can do is for to-do item in to-do items. So that is the context that we added in. And let's start off with closing this off with a end for. So everything within these two tags, it's going to be HTML, which this for loop is going to run over for each item. So we're going to start off with list item, and this is going to have a class of list group item. And then within this, we're going to have another div, and this is going to have a class of deflex justify content between, and then align items center. Now within here, we're going to have another div, and this is going to be an empty one. And now we're going to actually have the values from our to-do item. So we're going to use strong for the title. Now we do 2 curly braces, and inside of here we can display variables. So with this we can do to-do item dot title. Then below that we'll use a span, and we're going to display the to-do item description. And then what we're going to do here is display whether the item is completed or not. So what we'll do is if to-do item dot completed, and we'll add our end if here. We'll do span, that should be span class is equal to badge. Well, class is equal to badge with a background of success, and this will be completed. So if this badge isn't there, then we know the to-do item is not completed. Then we'll do next to that, we're going to have buttons for completing the task or deleting the task. So we'll do ahref is equal to, actually we don't have those views and URLs set up yet, so we'll leave this blank for now, but we'll give this the class of button success, and we'll make the button small, and we will name this complete. Then we'll do a very similar button below, so just copy that, and we'll change success to danger so we can tell a difference between them, and this will be delete. So that is all we will do for now for the HTML page. Once we've got the AI generating the steps to complete it, we'll add that into here as well. But with this page, it should be enough for us to continue and see what it looks like. So next, we need to go back to our AI to do project. We'll go to the URLs here, and within this import, we're going to include import include, and we'll add an empty path, which then goes to include to-do.urls, and that should be a string, and we add a comma there. So with this, we now need to create a urls.py within to-do, which we will do. So go back to this directory, create a new file on urls.py. So within here, from django.urls, import path, and now we need to do from dot, so our current directory, import views. Then we need to create a URL patterns, which will equal a list. We first need to create a path, and we'll give it an empty string like that, and that will take us to our views.index, and we will give this a name of index. And what we may as well do, even though we haven't created the views yet, we will create the other paths. So path add, this will be views.add to do, and this will have the name of add to do. Then we do path delete, and this will be for us to delete a specific to do task. So within here, we're going to have a value, so it'll be delete slash the ID of that task, and the ID of that task is a UID, which we will call to do ID, and then slash there. So this will be views dot delete to do, and this will also have the name of delete to do. Now finally we'll have a very similar thing again, except this will be complete, and this will also be complete, and also here complete. So because we don't have this set up yet, we can just comment it out, because I want to show you the index page as we have it. So because we've created a new model, we need to make a migration with that model. So first thing we need to do down here is within our to-do project directory, we do python manage.py make migrations. This has created a migration file right here, which lets Django know how to add this model into the database. So let's X from that, and now let's apply all the migrations that there are for Django with python manage.py migrate. So as you can see, there was a bunch of other stuff which was migrated to the table. These are all things that come with Django, but then at the bottom we have our migration added. So we have that all done. Now we can actually run our Django application, and we do that with python manage.py and then run server. So we can see that is running, and it has given us the URL here for it. So normally it's on port 8000, so let's go to that. And in our web browser here, we can see it's serving the index page. But of course we don't have anything available yet, so it is blank. So we are now going to first set up this add task button, and then we'll do the add task view and everything surrounding that. So let's uncomment that. We will grab this name, we'll go back to our index.html, and we'll go to the top here for the add task. Now what we can do in here, curly brace percent and percent, and we're going to specify that the URL has the name of add to do. So we will add that in, and let's save that here. You might see below here that we're getting an error. That's because there's no add to do within the views.py yet. So let us go do that. So we do define add to do, which takes in a request. So we're going to use this function for two things. The first is to view the add task page. The next is to actually add the task in. So when we add the task in, we're going to be using a post request. So what we can do is if request.method is equal to get, we are going to return render, and this will take the request again. This will then take to do / add to do.html. But then this is also going to take a context of a form. So what we need to do first is create a form which allows us to properly handle the model we just created and handles displaying a form within the web page and then actually saving it. So what we'll do first before we complete this, within our to do, new file, forms.py. So from here we need to do from Django import forms, then from .models import to do item, and we'll create a class to do item form. This will be forms.model form, and then within inside of here we're creating another class which is meta, which provides information about what this form should look like. So within here we're going to do model is equal to do item, so it lets it know for this form the model that we're using is the to do item model, and next we'll do fields is equal to a list of title and description, which lets the form know that from this model, the only fields we want in this form is title and description, because we're going to have it so these are the only fields that the user can enter, and then the AI will generate the steps to complete this task. So we've now got this form created. We go back to the views.py, we then do from.forms import to do item form, and what we do here is we create our form which will equal to do item form, and then the context passed to this HTML template will be form with form like that. So we'll start off with creating this form page. So what we'll do next is we're going to create this template HTML file, we're going to add the code to it, and then we'll handle the post request where the model is actually getting saved. So within templates to do, new file, add to do.html. Once again at the top, load static. We'll create the HTML. Actually, we can go to our index.html here. We can copy most of this actually. Let's just copy it all, and we will make changes as needed. So firstly, let's change the title at here to add to-do list, to do item actually. We will change this to add to do, add new to do item. Don't need this add task button anymore, and we can get rid of this entire list. But what we need in here is the form that we're going to be using. So let's create a form with a method of post, like so. So because we are handling a request to Django, to keep it secure we need to include a cross-site request forgery token. So to do that, we add this in, and it'll be CSRF token. So when you make a request to the Django backend, it's going to add this token as a cookie in your browser. So you're going to have this cookie in your browser, and when you make a request back, this is going to be included with it, which lets it know that you are the one who's making the request. So we include that with it. Now let's create a div with class, and we'll add margin bottom of 4, and let's do label class equals form label, and we'll give this label title. Then below here, using the form, we're going to add the title to it. So this will create the text box for writing the title in. We can copy and paste this, and let's do description, and then description here. And then with that, we'll create a button, which will be a type of submit, and let's give it a class of btn and btn primary, and we will call this save item. And while we're at it, we may as well add a cancel button. So we've got a button. Actually, this will need to be an A tag because we're going to be going back to the URL. We'll change this to href is equal to curly braces and percentage URL index. So that should be single quote. And we'll make this a button secondary, and cancel. So that is our form all set up. Now we should be able to go back to here, go to here, and if we click add task, it should take us to this page, which it has done. So we can see we've got a very basic form which has the title and description. If we do cancel, it should take us back here, which is doing. So we haven't actually set up saving this yet, because when we click the save button, it's going to be a post request, and we haven't actually done that yet. So within here, we go back to our views, and we will now do elif request.method is equal to post. Now inside of here, the request actually holds our form data. So what we do is form is equal to do item form, and then we're going to pass it the data from the request.post into it, and then we should have our form with the data we added in the website form. So what we need to do next is first check to see if the form has valid data within it. So form is valid. From this, we now extract the title through form.cleaned data, and it's a dictionary, so title. Then we do the same thing for description, and with that we can then do to do item.objects.create. We'll first set up the ID, which will be a UUID, which we first need to import. So UUID.UUID4, title is equal to title, and then description is equal to description. So we've now created a to-do item, and then we will return redirect, which we need to import from Django shortcuts, import redirect. We will redirect back to index. So that should be working. And what should happen is, so let's do test to do. When we click this, it should send the form back to the Django backend. It should retrieve these values and then save it in the database. It will then redirect us to the index page, and it should show us the item there. So if it's working, it should do that. Okay, it didn't work. Okay, that's my mistake. This right here is a function, so we need to actually run it like that. So now that should work correctly. Go back to here and go back. Still got the data filled in. So if we do save item, we can see that our to-do item is now in here. So that's working. So adding a to-do item works. We now need to make these two buttons work, so complete and delete. So let's do the complete one first. So we'll first go to the to-do urls.py, which is here. We will uncomment this one, and as we can see, we need to create this function here, complete to do. So we'll go to our views.py, def complete to do, and then this takes a request, and as we can see from the urls.py, we've specified that there is going to be a UUID, which is going to have the name of to-do ID. So we take that, and that is also passed into here. So what we need to do item, we will do get object or 404, which we need to import from Django shortcuts. That should be an equals. What we do is, so get object or 404, this is for the to do item object, and the ID is to do ID. So if this object exists, we've now got it here. What we then do is to do item.complete is equal to true. We then need to save this back to the database, and we are going to redirect back to the index page. So we've now got this set up, but we now need to add it back into the HTML that we go to this complete to do page. So in the index.html, we find this complete button, and inside of here, curly brace percent URL is complete to do. So if we go to this page and we click this complete button, it didn't work. So why is that? Reverse for complete to do with no arguments not found. Okay, that's because I forgot to add the ID of this to do item in it. So what we actually needed to do is URL complete to do, then after it we do to do underscore item dot ID. So if we go back to the main page and now we do complete, we can see it is completed. So it's now going to be a very similar thing for this delete button. Go to URLs, let's uncomment it. This is going to be called delete to do. So let's go to the views.py. We will copy and paste this, rename it to delete to do, and we're going to have the same thing here, but we are going to instead to do item dot delete. So if done that, we go back to the index.html. We can copy this, put it into here, but now it's delete to do. So with that done, we click this and it should delete it, which it didn't do for some reason. Okay, now it's done it because I didn't refresh the page. Okay, so this is the basic to-do application that we're going to be using. We're now going to use AI to turn it into a smart application, where it's now going to generate the steps that are required to complete the task. So there's going to be a few steps for this. Within this HTML page, we need to display the steps that the task has. And then when we add a task, we're going to have it within that code. AI is going to generate the steps required to complete it. So first thing we're actually going to do is going to go to models.py. We're not going to create a new Django model, but we are going to create a Pydantic model, which allows us to create a class and a data structure, which includes descriptive text as to what the class is. And we're going to use this to pass to the LLM, so it knows exactly how to create the task steps for us. So what we will do at the top here, we'll first do from typing import list, because our steps are going to be a list of strings, and then we do from Pydantic import base model and field. So this is a very basic use of AI for turning an application to a smart application, but it should give a good idea as to how it works and how you can use it elsewhere. So for this one, we're going to be creating a class AI to do item steps. This will use the base model from Pydantic. This is going to have one property of steps, and this is a list of strings, and we're going to set this as a field. So as it's a list, the default value is going to be an empty list, but this is going to have a description which tells the LLM what this is for, and this is going to equal let's call this description the steps which need to be taken to complete the to-do item. So we have that. Now we'll go to our views.py and let's go to the post request section. So using the title and description that we added in the form and passed it here, we are going to be passing that to the LLM, which is then going to decide what steps need to be taken to complete this task. So first thing we are going to do is let's create variable AI to do item steps, and this is going to be of the Pydantic model of AI to do item steps, which we actually need to import from here. Is that what I called it? Oh, I did it either again. To do item steps. Is that the correct one? Oh, I'm trying to get from, it's meant to be models. AI to do steps. So we're going to create this, and initially we'll just give it an empty list. But now when we write the prompt, which we're going to pass to the LLM, we are going to provide it with an example as to what this could look like. So we'll do example to do item steps. This will be AI to do item steps, and this will be steps equal to list once again, but we're going to provide just examples. So it doesn't need to be anything too over the top. We can just do example item 1, and let's repeat this a few times, and we'll do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when we write the prompt, this list is going to be included within it. And let's actually get started with writing the prompt. So we'll do a formatted string, and we'll do a multi-line one. So within this prompt, we need to pass the information of our task to it. We need to provide explicit instructions as to what we want it to do and what it does should look like. So we will start off with generate the steps required to complete the following task and return them as a JSON object. So with this, we're going to pass it the following is the title of the task. So we'll do task title, and we'll add a closing task title like this. So using XML tags helps the LLM know exactly what data is. So if we put data inside of these two tags, it knows that is the task's title. So that's a good way to organize data when passing to an LLM. So within here, we will do title, and that is this title here. So what we'll do next, we will copy this and do the exact same thing for the description. So following is the description, task description, copy paste that, and description. So it now knows what our task is. So what we should do next is tell it what the response should look like. So the following is an example of the exact format your JSON response must be in. So we'll pass it once more XML tags, example. So using that example to do steps we created, we're going to add that into here. Incorrectly named it, so let's fix that. We're then going to do model dump JSON. Whoop, went too far there. Model dump JSON, and let's give it indentation. And we'll do 4, just so it's more clearly laid out. Okay, so it roughly knows what we're trying to do. It knows what our task is. It knows what it should look like. But we'll add some more explicit instructions just to handle edge cases where it may do things incorrectly. So let's give clear instructions. Create a list of steps to complete the task. Generate a valid JSON object that matches the above schema. Return only valid JSON with no additional text, markdown, or explanation. Your output should be structured exactly like the example above, but with different and real values. Do not include 3 backticks or 3 backticks JSON in your response, and do not wrap anything around the JSON object. So that should be hopefully explicit enough instructions for what the LLM needs to do. So what we now need to do is pass this prompt to the LLM. So as we installed Ollama and the Llama 3.2 with 1 billion parameters earlier, we will now use that model to generate the steps for us. So let's do response is equal to ollama.chat, and we are going to use the model. Actually, first we need to import Ollama, which I haven't done yet. Now that's imported, the model is Llama 3.2 with 1 billion parameters, and for messages, the prompt we've written is going to be our message. So first a list and a dictionary item, role. Our role is user, and the content of our message is, what do we call that variable? It's our AI prompt. And why isn't that working? I did comma, meant to be that. So this passes our prompt to the LLM, and we have the response from it. So let's retrieve the content from the response, message, content, and let's write that correctly. And our AI to do item steps is going to equal the AI to do item steps, and we're going to validate the content of this. So model validate JSON. So this is a JSON string, so it's going to validate this as being valid JSON, and as something that can be turned into the AI steps. So this right here should be the model, the pedantic model we created, like this. So it should contain the steps property, and it will be a list of strings. So we'll now use that to fill in our steps. Actually, what did I include on here? So steps is equal to, this is going to be a list, and we'll do for step in AI to do item steps dot steps, and it will be step. So it's going through this list, it's grabbing each item as the variable step, and I'm going to save it as step within here. So what we should actually do when we run this to make sure it's working, we will print the AI prompt, and then we will also go down here and print the content. So that should be all the code that's needed to have the LLM generate the steps required to complete this task. But what we need to do now is go back to our index HTML and have it so we can have the steps displayed in here. So we'll go to right here at the very bottom of the list item, and actually we'll do if to do items dot steps. So we'll do that. We will then create an unordered list, and let's give this a margin top of 2. We will then do for step in to do items dot steps. Let's do end for. We are going to create a list item. Let's do value of dash and step. So I think that's all that's needed to display the item steps. So it's now time to see if this actually works. So let's do add new to-do item, and let's do develop a website using Django and Ollama. Let's give this a description of, I want to develop an AI-powered website using Django and an LLM retrieved from Ollama. So once we save this, it should then use Ollama to generate the steps, and then we'll be able to see it. So let's see what this looks like. Okay, well, done a mistake here. So chat got unexpected keyword message. Alright, that's because it's meant to be messages. So back to views.py, messages. So with that, click the back button. Our information is still filled in. So now we'll submit. So let's go to our VS Code, and we can see within here we've got our prompt printed out. So I've got all this information, we've got our title in here, we've got the description here, and then we have the example as to what it should look like here. And it seems like there was an error. So what was that? Oh, it's because I did the wrong key here. So that should be message. So let's retry that again, go back, rerun it, and let's see if it works this time. Okay, so we've got this here, but it doesn't have the steps. Okay, I'm not sure why, because you can see that it did, we're printing out the content here, but it doesn't seem to have worked. We might need to do some more troubleshooting with this. So let's print out this, and let's go to here, we'll delete this, and then we'll go back to here. So I've still got all the stuff saved in there, let's rerun it. Okay, so that is working. Okay, this must mean we've done the templating wrong. Ah, there's a mistake, we did to-do items instead of item. So let's save that, and now let's refresh. And there we go. Although as we can see from the styling, we didn't actually need to put this dash here. So let's remove that and bring it back. And there we go. We created this to-do task, and it now has produced the steps that we need to do to complete it. So to develop a website using Django and Ollama, we create the Django project, install the packages, we configure the database, define the models that the website will use, then we implement the AI using the LLM, and then we integrate with an existing backend or API service. So this was a quick tutorial which goes over how you can integrate AI and LLMs with your Django web applications. This project should give you the perfect starting point for you to be able to continue developing your own AI integrations within your own applications. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe.